I can still remember the hum of the neon sign as I pulled into the parking lot. The Randy's Diner sign flickered above, casting a sickly, pale glow onto the cracked asphalt. It was nearly 3 a.m., and I had been driving for hours. The road stretched out, endless and empty, just a string of dimly lit towns and gas stations. I'd passed through a few small places already, but none of them had any late-night diners. I was hungry, tired, and in desperate need of a coffee, so when I spotted Randy's, I figured I'd give it a shot. The place looked worn, faded red and white tiles, greasy windows, and the unmistakable smell of burnt coffee hanging in the air. There were only 2 cars in the parking lot, one of which looked like it hadn't moved in years. I wasn't the kind of guy to get nervous over small things, but there was something about that diner. Something just off. I stepped inside, and the bell above the door rang out, echoing through the quiet room. The place was nearly empty, save for a man sitting at the far end of the counter, his face hidden in the shadows. The waitress, a woman in her mid-40s with sharp features and hair pulled back into a messy bun, greeted me with a vacant smile. Her eyes seemed tired, but there was something else too, something strange. Maybe it was the way her gaze lingered just a second too long or the way she didn't seem to blink. "You've come for the late-night special?" she asked in a voice that didn't match her appearance, too soft, too calm. "Yeah, just a coffee and something to eat," I replied, trying to shake off the uncomfortable feeling creeping up my spine. She nodded, stepping behind the counter to prepare my order. I looked around, noticing how quiet it was. The hum of the fluorescent lights overhead was the only sound, and that low buzz seemed to be getting louder by the second. The man at the counter hadn't moved, still hunched over, his face still hidden. As I waited for my coffee, I couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. The air seemed thick, the shadows deeper than they should be for a place like this. And then I heard it, a soft scraping noise from the kitchen. Like someone moving dishes, but too deliberate, too slow. I glanced toward the back, but the kitchen door was closed. I tried to tell myself it was just the old pipes or the creaking of the building settling, but deep down, I knew something was wrong. "Here you go, hon," the waitress said, snapping me from my thoughts. She placed the mug in front of me, her fingers brushing against mine just a bit too long. "Thanks," I muttered, trying not to look into her eyes. I sat there, sipping my coffee, trying to shake off the weird vibe. But as I glanced around, I saw it, the man at the counter had turned his head just slightly, just enough that I could see his face. And I'll never forget what I saw. His eyes. They weren't just tired or bloodshot. They were hollow. Like he had been staring at something for hours, maybe days, without blinking. His face was pale, ghostly even, and his mouth twitched unnaturally. For a split second, I thought he might speak, but then he slowly turned back to his drink, his back now facing me again. I froze. "Everything all right?" The waitress's voice cut through the silence like a knife, and I turned to look at her. "Yeah," I stammered, not wanting to seem like I was losing it. Just thought I saw something." But she was already walking back to the kitchen, her footsteps muffled by the thick, sticky air. And that's when I noticed it. Behind the counter, there was a door that led to a small hallway. The hallway had no light. And in the dim glow from the kitchen, I thought I saw something, moving in that darkness. Something that wasn't the usual shadow. I shook my head, trying to focus on my coffee. I needed to calm down. There was no reason to be paranoid. But as the seconds ticked by, I couldn't help but feel like someone was watching me. Not just the man at the counter. Something else. Something much older. The coffee in my cup had long gone cold, but I kept sipping it anyway. I couldn't help it, my nerves were on edge, and that bitter taste grounded me, even if it didn't help much. I tried to focus on the man at the counter, but I couldn't stop glancing toward that dark hallway behind the counter. The shadows there seemed to move, pulse, as if something was slithering in the dark, just out of sight. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched, but not by the man or the waitress. This was something else. It felt like an old presence, something ancient that had been waiting for someone like me to walk in. I glanced at the clock on the wall. 3:15 a.m. Something about that time unsettled me even more, but I couldn't explain why. The ticking of the clock seemed louder now, like a countdown to something I didn't want to face. The waitress returned, this time holding a small plate of eggs and bacon. She placed it in front of me without saying a word. I stared at the food, but the smell of it didn't register. All I could smell was something sour, something metallic, but I couldn't tell where it was coming from. "Eat up, Han," she said, her voice still unnervingly calm. "You'll need your strength." "Right," I muttered, trying to act normal, but there was something so wrong in her tone that it sent a chill up my spine. As I cut into the eggs, I couldn't help but feel something was off with the diner itself, like the building was breathing, its old wooden floors creaking with every movement. The man at the counter hadn't moved a muscle. His drink, untouched, sat in front of him. I could feel my heart rate quicken. It was almost like a game, a sick game they were playing with me, but I couldn't quite figure out the rules. That's when I heard the sound again. The scraping. It was coming from the hallway. I turned my head sharply, but all I saw was the door, the same door I had noticed earlier. It was open just a crack, enough to see the flickering of an old, dim light from within. "Excuse me," I said, my voice sounding too loud in the quiet diner. "What's down that hall?" The waitress didn't look at me immediately. She just stared at the counter for a moment, her lips tight, before turning to meet my gaze. "Just storage," she said, her tone flat, no hint of emotion. But I didn't believe her. The look in her eyes, the way her jaw clenched, told me there was something more. Something she wasn't willing to share. I set my fork down, pushing the plate away. The room felt colder all of a sudden, and I didn't want to sit there anymore. My instincts screamed at me to leave, but my curiosity kept me rooted to the spot. I glanced toward the man at the counter again. His face was now fully visible, his eyes wide open but staring at nothing. I had no idea how long he'd been like that, but the thought of him having been there for hours, unmoving, chilled me to the bone. There was no normal explanation for that kind of stillness. I glanced back toward the hallway, and this time, I saw it, a figure. A shadow, just at the edge of the flickering light, moving slowly down the hall. It was tall, thin, and wrong. The shape was distorted, like it was struggling to keep its form. I stood up, heart pounding in my chest, but before I could take a step, the door to the kitchen swung open with a violent crash. The waitress appeared again, her eyes wide, this time with something more than exhaustion. There was fear in her face. "You should go," she said, her voice a little louder now, the calmness slipping. "Get out of here. Now." I didn't wait for her to say anything else. My feet moved on their own, and I rushed toward the door. But as my hand touched the handle, I heard it, soft, but unmistakable, the scrape of nails against the tile. And then the whisper. It wasn't the man at the counter. It wasn't the waitress. It came from somewhere in the hallway. "Stay with me." My heart stopped. I whipped the door open and bolted into the parking lot. But as I glanced over my shoulder, I saw the door to the diner swing open behind me, the waitress standing in the doorway, watching me leave. Her face had twisted, her eyes hollow now, the smile gone, replaced with something unrecognizable. I ran to my car, hands shaking as I fumbled for my keys, but I didn't dare look back. I drove away without a second thought, not caring where I was going. Just far, far away from that place. But I swear, if you're ever passing through that part of the state, don't stop at Randy's Diner. No matter how empty the road seems. Because something is waiting there. And it's not human. The next few days were a blur. I tried to shake off the events of that night, but it was impossible. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that hallway, the figure in the dark, and the voice, those soft, chilling words, "Stay with me." The more I thought about it, the more I realized something wasn't right. Randy's diner didn't feel like any ordinary place. It felt cursed. I couldn't escape the feeling that something had followed me. There were moments when I'd be driving down the highway, and out of the corner of my eye, I'd think I saw a figure standing at the edge of the road, just waiting. Other times, I'd hear a tapping noise behind me, like someone knocking on my window, but when I turned around, nothing. I couldn't stop thinking about the man at the counter and the waitress. And that hallway. I tried to reach out to the local authorities to report the diner, but there was no record of Randy's diner on any map. No one seemed to know where it was. The town I had passed through, the one nearest to the diner, had no such establishment listed. It was like the place didn't exist, or maybe, it never had. Then, for days after I left, the phone call came. It was late in the evening, and I had just sat down to dinner when my phone buzzed on the table. I picked it up, expecting some spam or maybe a wrong number, but the caller ID was blocked. My hand hesitated, but curiosity got the better of me. I pressed the phone to my ear. "Hello." A long silence followed, and just as I was about to hang up, I heard it. A soft, raspy breath. "Hello." I repeated, this time with more urgency. The voice that answered wasn't human, not entirely. It was distorted, like it was coming through some sort of static. A whisper, low and strained, a voice that sounded almost desperate. "You should have stayed." I froze. My blood ran cold. It was her. The waitress. But how? She was there, in the diner. And I had just left hours ago. I opened my mouth to speak, but before I could get a word out, there was a sharp click, followed by the unmistakable sound of a phone line cutting off. I stood there, holding the phone in my trembling hand. My heart pounded. I tried to call the number back, but it was disconnected. Then the memories flooded back in waves, one after another. The hallway, the figure, the whisper that had come from the dark. But there was something else, something I hadn't noticed at first. Something that made my stomach churn when I thought about it, the way the waitress had looked at me before I left. Her eyes. Her expression wasn't fear, like I thought. No, it was hunger. A look that told me she wanted me to leave. She wanted me to get far enough away that she could follow. I didn't sleep that night. The phone call had rattled me to the core, and every creak in the house, every shadow in the corner of my room, made my skin crawl. Something was out there. Something I couldn't explain. And it was getting closer. The next day, I tried to look up the diner again. This time, I drove down the same route. I had to know if Randy's diner was real or if I had lost my mind. But when I passed through the small town again, nothing looked familiar. The road I had taken that night, the one that had led me to the diner, was gone. There was no sign of it. Just an empty stretch of land. I drove up and down the street for hours, but nothing. I went to every gas station, every corner store, but no one had heard of Randy's diner. It was like it had never existed. The eerie feeling followed me all the way home. And that night, when I finally managed to drift off to sleep, I dreamed of the diner. I was back there. It was different this time, darker, quieter. The man at the counter wasn't there, but the waitress was. She was standing in the doorway of the hallway, staring at me, smiling. And she whispered again, "Stay with me." But this time, she wasn't alone. From the darkness, I saw the shadow move again, the same distorted figure. It reached out, and I could feel the cold air from it wrap around me. It pulled me toward the hallway, toward the darkness where the air was thick with something ancient and hungry. I woke up in a cold sweat, the sheets tangled around me. My heart raced as I sat up in bed, glancing around the room. There was nothing there. No shadow, no figure in the corner. But I knew, it was still out there. And I couldn't run forever. The nightmares didn't stop after that. Every night, I saw that hallway, that twisted, flickering light. I saw the shadow creeping closer. It felt real, so real that sometimes I'd wake up with my body aching, like I had physically been pulled into that darkness. I had to know the truth. I couldn't live with the constant fear, the whispers that followed me. So, I did the only thing I could think of. I went back. I drove through the night, retracing the same path, ignoring the sense of dread crawling up my spine. The further I went, the more I felt like something was pushing me forward. The air grew colder, heavier, as if I were driving into a place that was no longer part of the world I knew. The town that had been closest to the diner was still there, but it looked different now. Almost forgotten. The buildings were run down, the streets empty. As I passed through, I spotted the same stretch of highway where the diner should have been. But it wasn't there. I pulled over, my headlights cutting through the thickening fog. My heart thudded in my chest as I stared out into the mist. It felt like the town itself was holding its breath. And then I saw it. A flicker of light. A neon sign glowing faintly in the distance, the words, "Randy's Diner," barely visible through the haze. It was there. After all this time, after everything I had gone through, the diner was waiting for me. I didn't hesitate. I drove toward it, the old building looming ahead as I pulled into the same cracked parking lot. The same two cars were there, parked in the exact spots where I had seen them before. The familiar, uncomfortable feeling of the place hit me hard, but this time, it wasn't just a chill in the air. It was the weight of the past few days, the torment, the fear that something had been following me all along. I stepped out of my car, my legs feeling unsteady, and approached the diner. The bell above the door jingled as I opened it, and the same thick smell of burnt coffee and grease hit my senses. But this time, there was something different. The diner was alive, people sat at the counter, eating, talking, as if nothing was wrong. The man I had seen before was gone, replaced by another person, but they all had the same hollow look in their eyes. The waitress from that night was there, too, standing behind the counter, her expression unchanged. She turned to face me as soon as I walked in, her lips curling into that same unsettling smile. "You came back," she said, her voice low, almost reverent. "I knew you would." I tried to speak, but the words caught in my throat. It felt like the air had thickened again, like I was suffocating. And then I saw it. The hallway. The door at the back of the diner was wide open now, and I could see the flickering light in the distance. But there was more this time. There were shapes moving in the dark. Figures. Shadows. More than one. More than two. I felt the cold creeping down my spine, and before I knew it, I was walking toward the door, my feet moving of their own accord. I tried to stop, tried to turn around, but something was pulling me forward, something strong and relentless. The waitress didn't stop me. She just watched me as I crossed the threshold and stepped into the hallway. As soon as I did, the temperature dropped. The air was thick, like I was walking through water. The light flickered again, and I could see it more clearly now, the figure, tall and thin, standing at the end of the hallway. The same one I had seen in my dreams. Its form was distorted, like it was straining to maintain its shape, its arms reaching out, fingers twitching. "You're not supposed to be here," the voice whispered, but it wasn't the waitress. It was the thing in the dark. Its voice was low, distorted, like it was tearing through the fabric of reality itself. And then, out of nowhere, I heard it again. The whisper I had been waiting for. The one that had followed me all this time. It came from the dark corners of the hallway, from every direction at once. "Stay with me." The cold crept deeper into my bones. I could feel the weight of the place pressing in on me, suffocating me. I knew, deep down, that if I stayed, would be trapped here forever. Just like the others. I turned to run, but the hallway seemed longer now, stretching out in front of me. I heard footsteps behind me, the sound of something, or someone, chasing me. I could feel their presence, their cold breath on my neck. The shadow was getting closer. The door at the end of the hall slammed shut, and for a moment, I thought I was trapped. But then I saw it. The door to the outside. It was right there. I ran toward it, my legs burning, my lungs aching. As I reached for the handle, I heard the thing's voice again, this time louder, angrier. "You can't leave." I yanked the door open with everything I had left and stumbled outside into the parking lot. I didn't stop running until I reached my car, and I didn't look back. I drove away, faster than I ever had, with the sound of my own heartbeat pounding in my ears. And when I looked in the rearview mirror, I swear I saw the flickering neon sign behind me, Randy's Diner, disappearing into the fog. But I know it's still out there. Somewhere. Waiting. If you ever see that diner, don't stop. Don't even think about it. Because once you do, it won't let you leave. And once you've seen it, you'll always hear the whisper. Stay with me. I've been driving non-stop for the past few days, zigzagging across the country, trying to outrun the feeling that something is following me. But it's hard to outrun something that doesn't play by the same rules. Every time I stop, I feel it, an overwhelming sense of dread, the whisper that follows me, always just out of reach, yet never leaving me alone. I've tried everything. I've stopped at motels, gas stations, and even a few other diners, but no matter where I go, I always feel the same thing, that presence, the hollow, suffocating feeling that I'm not alone. It's like the world around me has warped, as if everything is being watched by something that doesn't belong in this world. I've gone to the police, tried to find any way to explain what happened at Randy's Diner, but they looked at me like I was losing my mind. They said I was probably just tired, too much time on the road, that maybe it was stress. But they didn't understand. They didn't see what I saw. They didn't hear what I heard. And they didn't feel the cold that clung to my skin every time I closed my eyes. I can't explain it, but I know what I felt. I know what I saw. And I know the truth. That diner isn't just a place. It's a door. A door to something darker, something older, something that shouldn't exist. I've tried to convince myself I'm just going crazy, that maybe I just imagined the whole thing. But then, every time I start to let my guard down, it happens again. I'll catch a glimpse of a flickering light on the side of the road, or hear a whisper in the dead of night, and I'll feel that cold again, creeping through my veins. I'm telling you this because I need you to understand. There are things in this world we don't understand, things that we can't explain. And Randy's Diner is one of them. It's a place that doesn't belong in this reality, a place that draws people in, keeps them there, until they can't leave. I thought I was done with it. I thought I could run. But every time I think I'm free, the diner calls me back. The last time I stopped, 2 days ago, I thought I was safe. I had driven so far from that place, and yet, when I went to sleep, I had the dream again. The dream that haunts me. The dream where I'm back there, standing in the hallway, the shadow watching me, the whispers growing louder. And then I woke up. I wasn't in my motel room anymore. I was standing at the counter of Randy's Diner. It was like I had never left. The same worn tiles, the same greasy smell. The same people, their eyes hollow, empty. The same waitress, her smile sickeningly familiar, standing behind the counter, waiting for me. I tried to leave, but the door wouldn't open. The hallway was still there, just like before, waiting for me. This time, though, there was no escape. I didn't scream. I didn't try to fight. I knew what was coming. I knew what had to happen. The shadow was closer this time, and I could feel it reaching out for me, its cold fingers brushing my skin. It whispered to me, just like it always does. Stay with me. I couldn't fight it anymore. I couldn't run. And just like that, I felt myself slipping into the darkness. And now I'm here. I don't know how, I don't know why, but I know one thing for sure. This place. It's real. It's a place where time doesn't matter. Where you can never truly leave. And if you're reading this, if you're hearing my story, you're already too close. If you ever come across Randy's Diner, remember my words. Stay away. Because once you step inside, you might just find yourself staying forever. It's strange how time feels different here. I can't say how long I've been standing in this place. Hours? Days? Weeks? Or maybe it's been longer than that. Time bends here, stretches and contracts like a rubber band pulled too tight. It doesn't matter. What matters is that I'm still here, still trapped in Randy's Diner, waiting for something I can't even explain. I've tried to fight it, tried to leave, but I know it's pointless. The moment I tried to walk through that door again, it slammed shut in my face. And that same cold breath followed me. I hear it now, the scrape of those nails, always just behind me, waiting for the right moment to reach out and grab me. I can't look back. If I do, I know it'll be too late. The shadow will take me for good. I see the others now. The ones who didn't make it. They're sitting at the counter like they've always been here, their eyes just like the man I saw when I first walked in, hollow, unblinking, staring at nothing. They don't speak, not anymore. They're beyond that. They're just waiting. Waiting for the next person to wander in, to feed the hunger of this place. The waitress, too. She never leaves. I see her behind the counter, cleaning the same glass, pouring the same cup of coffee over and over again, as though she's stuck in a loop. But her smile never fades. It's not a warm smile. It's a smile that says she's part of this, part of something that wants you to stay, wants you to join the others, to be absorbed into the madness of this place. And then there's the hallway. The door to the hallway is always there, waiting. The flickering light calls me, just like it did the first time. And the shadow, the thing that whispers, it's closer now. It stands at the edge of the light, always there, always watching. It wants me, wants to pull me into the darkness with the others. But I won't go. I've learned something in the time I've been here. You don't fight it. You don't run. You just wait. You wait like the others, because that's all you can do. I know the moment I stop waiting, the moment I give in and accept this place as my reality, that's when I'll become one of them. That's when I'll lose everything. But still, I try. I try to push against the feeling, to fight the pull. But it's like wading through tar. The more I struggle, the deeper I sink into this place. And maybe that's the true horror of it. The realization that there's no escape. Not for me. Not for anyone. I see new faces now. Every once in a while, someone will stumble in through the door, just like I did. They'll sit at the counter, order something, and then, eventually, they'll start to notice it. The strange stillness of the diner. The hollow eyes of the others. And that whisper. They don't always make it to the hallway. Some try to leave, only to find that the door is locked, or the world outside doesn't look quite